what helped me the most was just focusing as much as I could on other people, not myself, and on Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That was the only time in my life where my personal prayers were like 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it sounds like crazy, but I was like, I just needed so much help.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, just wanted to do the best that I could. And it was hard and, not super fruitful, but I just knew that at the end of every day, I could lay down and feel like I had done the best that I could with the circumstances that I was in.
All right, welcome back to yet another video. Today in the studio, I'm joined by Lauren.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I am super excited to talk to Lauren today. She served with my wife, Olivia, in Tennessee.
Yep.
And so I've heard Livy's side of the story to what it's like serving in Tennessee. And I figured I'd have you on to be a second witness to that.
Sure.
I mean, my wife has nothing but great things to say about Tennessee. And you taught her a lot about what it takes to be a good missionary. And so I want to hear about your experience and the lessons you learned out there. But yeah, if you just want to give us a background, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to go on a mission. Yeah.
So I'm Lauren Bittner, like Noah said. I grew up in Kaysville, Utah, have been a member my whole life. But as far as wanting to go on a mission, I got my patriarchal blessing, I think when I was 14 or 15, and it said in my blessing that I was going to go on a mission.
Wow.
And it was pretty specific, not like there weren't a lot of ways to interpret it, if that makes sense. It was like,
it was pretty clear.
You're going to go on a mission.
Wow.
So I think that is what I needed to kind of push me to go in the beginning. But as soon as the patriarch said it, I felt that it was true. I felt like I needed to go.
Wow.
And I had two older sisters that had both served missions. And so I got to see their examples a little bit and see the blessings that came from a mission personally. So that's kind of where it started for me, I would say. But then I just kept working on my testimony, going throughout my life. And I realized, just how blessed I was from having the gospel in my life and the difference that it made to me and just the hope and peace and just like the purpose that it gave my life.
Yeah.
Just gave me a lot of meaning. And I realized that not everybody has that. And, that was a big driving force for me to want to go is I think everybody deserves to hear about the gospel of Jesus Christ and to be able to experience the blessings that I've experienced.
Right.
From living the gospel. So that was kind of what pushed me to go.
That's super cool. It almost feels like selfish in ways when we were blessed with the knowledge of the gospel and we'd come to know Jesus Christ to not, if we have the opportunity to serve and we're able and willing, it seems like a no-brainer that we would do that for Christ. And so that's cool that you recognize that so early on. Obviously your patriarchal blessing helped, but most of the women that I've talked to who have served missions, it was like a post high school during college decision that they wrestled with, but that's something that you had early on. So with that in mind, what were the steps and things you were taking in high school and maybe in college that helped you prepare for going on a mission?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely just tried to have as many spiritual experiences as I could. I mean, I think that the most mission specific thing I did was going to like mission prep in high school. They had that we would go Sunday mornings and then I did a mission prep course in Institute my freshman year of college.
Cool.
So that helped me, but mostly it was just reading the Book of Mormon every day, praying every day, just trying to have as many spiritual experiences as I could. And it just kept me close to the Spirit, kept me close to Christ and God. And then that just always reinforced my decision to go.
Yeah.
Just all those little experiences.
Absolutely. What was the scariest thing, like throughout those years? Obviously, you said that it was good pressure or a good expectation that you were going to serve a mission. That's something that was, you would come to terms with early on in life. But what scared you the most about going on a mission?
Oh, I don't know. I think just the unexpected, probably. I'm somebody that I like to know what's coming.
Yeah.
I like to be prepared.
That's why you got along with my wife as a companion.
Yeah, we're
She's
one and the
similar
same.
to
Yeah. So I think that's probably what scared me the most, was just like the not knowing where I was going, not knowing when I was going, and then just what it would be like. I mean, but I didn't really feel scared. I felt pretty sure in my decision. I felt pretty comforted. And I mean, not to say that there weren't hard times, and there were definitely times where I felt like inadequate, or I don't know if I could do this type things, but I just held true to the answer I got from God, and it just led me. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Tell me about receiving your mission call.
Yeah,
and what it was like, reading where you're going and when. And
it was a little crazy. So I got my mission call in January of 2020. So right before COVID and everything.
That's right. The buzzer beater.
Yeah. So it was right before anything had come out. I mean, I think we'd maybe heard about it a little bit at that point. But I got my call, got called to Tennessee, and I was super stoked about that. And I don't know if you knew this, but I got called to speak Spanish in Tennessee.
Oh, really? No way. Okay.
So I got called to speak Spanish in Tennessee, and I was so excited.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really care where I was going. I was just excited to go.
Did you want to go foreign or stateside? Did you have a preference?
I think everybody wants to go foreign initially, just because I was like, if I'm going to go, like, it'd be so fun to go
to a crazy place.
Yeah, go out of the country and whatnot. But no, Tennessee sometimes felt like a different country.
Oh, absolutely.
I know but it was pretty good. So I was excited about that, excited about Tennessee. And then, so I got my call in January, and then I was in school, so I just kept going to school, and then everything with COVID happened, and everybody would look at me, because my call was beginning of May was when I started my mission. So as COVID approached, and as we kind of got into the thick of that and everything started shutting down, everyone's like, are you going to the MTC? Because I was supposed to go to the Mexico MTC.
Oh, no way. Okay.
And so I was like preparing to go. I had just finished finals. I was supposed to leave like the week later, and I still hadn't heard anything. And I was like, well, I think I'm going to Mexico. I'm not sure. And then like a week and a half before I was supposed to leave, they sent me an email, and they're like, you're going to do home MTC for 6 weeks.
Wow.
So
6 weeks too.
6 weeks.
Because I think that's what Olivia had to do as well.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And tell me about that. I mean, that was a very testing time for missionaries, but also the church, because it was like, how do we handle the situation? They probably had so many missionaries in your same position, and now they're trying to introduce this home MTC idea, where they've adopted it now, where every missionary spends a week at home to start their mission. So I think there's some good that comes from it. But what was your experience like, 6 weeks at home? I
mean, it was rough. I'm not gonna lie. I think the MTC is an adjustment for anybody, but it was weird because all of my family came home because of COVID. So everyone was like shut down. Nobody had work. Nobody had school. So we'd all just be hanging out all day. And then I would have to go sit in the room for 9 hours on my laptop. And I could hear my family laughing, or they'd be having dinner. And so it was hard. It was rough on me a little bit. But I think in a way it might have been a blessing, because when the time came to leave, I was like,
you were so
let
ready
me go.
To get out. That's true. I mean, that's kind of that's the pattern that you see with missionaries. My little brother who just went out, it's like they do that first little bit at home, and they're so excited to get to the MTC, and then they get to the MTC and they're like, man, home was pretty nice. And then they get sick of the MTC, and then they just get me out to the field. And then they get to the field and they're like, dang, I could do anything to go back to the MTC.
Yes.
But I mean, 6 weeks in that situation, I can see that'd get you stoked to go to Tennessee.
Yeah, so it was hard, but there were blessings. I mean, it was so cool to be a missionary and be with my whole family was pretty cool. And the other things, I just didn't know any better. You just kind of do. You just do. And I was just like, I don't know. I don't know any different. So I guess this is what I've been asked to do. So I'm going to do it. And then, left to Tennessee 6 weeks later.
And you said that Tennessee, at times felt like a foreign country. Did you feel that off the bat? Tell me about setting foot in Tennessee and starting your mission there.
I mean, I remember just feeling so ready to be there and just, okay, who are these people that I have been called to go serve, and my companions? I was really eager and excited to get into it. But I did actually my first 6 weeks in a Spanish branch. And then I did my next 6 weeks in a Spanish ward. So all my training was in Spanish. So I felt like I was in Tennessee, but like not in a way, because I wasn't really interacting with the Southerners as much. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
But it was tricky for me because I had spent 6 weeks trying to learn Spanish, and then I'm with these people, and some are from Guatemala, some are from Honduras, some are from Mexico. I mean, you probably experienced that too. And I'm like, these accents are so different.
Very confusing.
Yeah. But I was typing out Spanish most of the time, like not talking, because we weren't interacting with people. We were stuck inside.
Oh, true, yeah.
We were locked down because of COVID. So I never really got a good hang of Spanish. So I don't tell people that I learned Spanish because I don't know it very well for that reason. So that was a little bit of a challenge for me. But as far as the people in the South, I just adore them. I think they're some of the best people on the planet. I think that they're so amazing, just so warm and inviting and God-fearing. So I definitely have a love for them for sure.
Well, and there's some overlap with that, with those characteristics with the Hispanic people too. And I'm sure you experienced that. I remember, being so confused, not understanding everything. There's people from all different countries, but you still feel this love, and like, even though you can't communicate, you can't tell them, how you feel about them, or you can't share your testimony accurately, but there is this sense of like love and, genuine care for one another. And I think that, like you said, people in the South carry that heavily too. And so tell me about and maybe it's a story, but tell me about what it's like teaching, your classic person from Tennessee. It's the Bible Belt. You get a lot of passionate Christians, God-fearing people, like you said. What was it like approaching those conversations?
I mean, it changed person to person. Some people had very strong feelings about our church and Joe Smith and his Bible and things like that. But mostly I would say they had a respect for us just because of what we were doing. Because to them, we're just, and to us, it's Jesus. We love Jesus. So they're like, oh, good for you for giving to the Lord. We love him. And so most of the time I would say that they were pretty respectful, but there were a number of interactions, where people get pretty passionate, and it was hard to take because I tend to get pretty passionate too. And so when they're attacking something that I care so much about and love so much, it was hard for me at times, but it was an interesting experience because they already knew about Jesus Christ and they already knew about God. So you weren't really telling them anything new in a sense. I mean, as far as like the knowledge of Christ, because there's some countries you go to and they have no idea about who Christ is. So I think the challenge came with, they were like, well, we already know Jesus. We already know the church. Like, why do we need your church? Which was a really good opportunity to segue into, well, this is what sets our church apart, and this is what makes us different. So it was an opener, and some people were willing to accept that. And, especially with the Book of Mormon, people either loved the idea of it or they had very strong feelings, felt like you were trying to replace the Bible.
Right.
So.
No, that's, what were some of the things, if you had a person who was devout of another faith, what were some, you talk about, introducing the gospel or just the Church of Jesus Christ, like what were some of the principles or things that you would teach more than others? Like was it like families are eternal? Was it the restoration of the gospel? Like, where would you start to kind of introduce that?
Probably with the Book of Mormon, because that's usually something that they had heard about. Most of them had. So that was an easy thing to start with. Just about what it is, that it doesn't replace the Bible, that it works with the Bible
Yeah.
to teach the gospel of Jesus Christ. And then we would talk a lot about the plan of salvation, but more specifically the afterlife, the afterworld. And
Yeah.
because people I heard all different kinds of views about what heaven was going to be like.
Right.
Everybody just had different beliefs and different opinions on that. So that was something that really separated us. But something else I think that I really tried to hone in on was the priesthood and just like how, and then the covenants that we make because of the priesthood and how that connects us to God. So that was something I really tried to be specific about.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the prophets and apostles have said time and time again that, and it says a ton in Preach My Gospel, that the Book of Mormon is and will be the most powerful tool in your key to conversion, or whatever the quote is. And that's always a great place to start, because you find that common ground with faith in Jesus Christ. And, if you follow the counsel of, or you follow the example of what the prophet always does, if you've heard those stories, he always opens the 3rd Nephi 11. This is Jesus Christ talking. We have, the entire book talks of Christ, but there's also his actual words. And so starting with a passage like that and several others, that's a great way to help them because it sounds like, and it was similar in Virginia where I served, like people have what they think is an accurate understanding of Mormonism or Joe Smith, and but then it can be pretty eye-opening when you open to the very first pages of the Book of Mormon, and let's see, in the introduction to the Book of Mormon, it's in the quad, so it's always harder to find. Let's see if where is it? The crowning event recorded in the Book of Mormon is the personal ministry of the Lord Jesus Christ among the Nephites soon after his resurrection. It puts forth the doctrines of the gospel, outlines the plan of salvation, and tells men what they must do to gain peace in this life and eternal salvation in the life to come. And people don't realize they have so much to say about the Book of Mormon, about the Mormon Church. But if they were to just take the time to read it, and I'm not even saying to get taught by the missionaries and get baptized, but like if you took the time to read what is contained in the Book of Mormon, you may not be as
against it,
intense and aggressive in those situations. But those are conversations that are hard to navigate as a missionary and as a young, just got out of high school, in college, like we didn't know how to talk to people in that way. And so I just wanted to ask, what were some things that you did for that? But were there any people that you taught that had a big impact on you? Like someone that you met that maybe, whether it's someone that you taught, and you saw them grow their faith in Jesus Christ, or their example taught you something. Is there anything you could share to that?
Oh, I don't know. There's so many. It's hard to pick. So the funny thing about my mission, I didn't have very many baptisms, but I taught so many amazing people. And I think one of my favorite things, I could list the specifics, but the overall feeling that I would get, and the thing that mostly stuck out to me, was being able to tell them something that they had never heard before, and to see the hope that the gospel of Jesus Christ brings to them. Like, you could physically see the change in their eyes, specifically people that have gone through a hard time. I remember teaching this guy named Tim, and he was interested, kind of. I think he was maybe just appeasing us. These girls wanted to just teach him.
Yeah.
But we were teaching him about the plan of salvation, and he really opened up to us that his wife had just passed away from, I think it was cancer. And it was just the way he talked about her, you could tell that he loved her so much. I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about their significant other in that way. So it was really sweet, and he opened up to us, and, you know, he goes, but whenever I pass away, I'll just go to heaven and I'll be with her, but I won't really know what she looks like. Or to my understanding, he's Baptist. He goes, my understanding is we'll all just be in heaven worshiping, but I won't really know it's her. She won't know it's me. We won't be able to like recognize each other in that way. I just remember stopping and being like, no, Tim, you know, you will be able to recognize your wife, and you have the opportunity to live with her forever and to see her again and to live with her again. And just the change and the way that he was overcome with the Spirit was so impactful to me. Just, I could see it in his eyes, just this hope. You know, whether or not he believed it and whether or not he went on to be baptized, I don't know. But just for that moment to give him that hope that he was going to be with his wife again because of Jesus Christ was really impactful to me.
Yeah. That, I mean, you've brought up the plan of salvation a couple times now. Was there a lesson or a principle that you really found natural to teach because of your testimony of it? I don't know if that question makes sense. Like, you know, if it's the plan of salvation, like that's something that you've experienced firsthand and you love to share that with people. Is it the Book of Mormon? What did you like teaching about?
I liked it all. It's always just, I mean, that's one of my favorite parts about the gospel, because to me, that's such a core part of my testimony, because to me, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, that there was a premortal world, that we're here, and then there's going to be the, you know, the afterlife in heaven, and all of it just makes sense to me. I think logically, but also spiritually. I loved teaching about the like heaven and what we believe in, the spirit world after we pass away, because it is very different than other religions. And so I think that was something that really stuck out to people, you know, specifically that it was a place where if you had never heard about Jesus Christ before, you have the opportunity to be taught there, you know, and because that just makes sense to me. And I think that it kind of caught people off guard because they hadn't really thought about it before. Like, oh, what if I hadn't been taught about Jesus Christ? What happens? And another point that I really appreciate and love teaching was just our purpose on earth, and specifically about the atonement of Jesus Christ, and just how what Christ has done for us, how that adds purpose to our life. And, you know, I think that a lot of people in the world look for happiness, and the world tells them that if you live a certain way or if you do a certain thing that you'll be happy. But the plan of salvation and the gospel of Jesus Christ teaches us what we need to do to be happy and give our life purpose and meaning. So to me, that's meaningful because I have a goal every day that I work towards. I have purpose in my life. I have something that's driving me, you know, motivating me to be a good person and to live like Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And you said so many great things there. The idea that the church and the world is painted as a restrictive, high demand, you know, boxes your life in these commandments and guidelines and restrictions to the point where you can't live freely, you know. But it's funny when you look into it more and you study the scriptures and you read what Jesus Christ has said and you learn about God's plan of salvation, you realize that our theology and understanding of God's eternal plan is the most inclusive, unconditionally loving plan. And especially when you put it next to some of the other religions that believe in this clear-cut heaven and hell. You go here for that reason, you go there for that reason. But God is so aware of us, and he's so, I think he considered the pressures we would feel here on earth, and created his plan knowing that we would make a lot of mistakes and that he would need to make sure that we could hold on to hope in a lot of different ways. And that's what the plan of salvation offers, and that's what Jesus Christ offers, is this understanding that we have every reason to be hopeful and optimistic like Tim to see our loved ones again.
Mm-hmm.
And death is a hard and sad thing to experience, but it's not the end.
Mm-mm.
And we have every reason to be excited and look forward to those days. What tell me, I'd love to hear another story or two about someone you taught, someone you met, a companion, you know. Tell me something that you learned on your mission that you...
For sure. One that I was thinking of is about this lady named Becky. So I taught her when I was in Knoxville. So I taught her with a different companion, but also with Olivia.
Oh, nice.
Which was kind of cool. So Becky, she has kind of a crazy story, and just really, it feels pretty normal in a lot of ways. I think she's pretty relatable. So Becky's mom was a convert to the church, and Becky was probably in her 40s when we met her and we were talking to her. So her mom was a convert to the church, and so she had kind of been talking to Becky, you know, you should think about this, you should try and, you know, get taught by the missionaries, and Becky always just kind of brushed it off. But I don't know where she was living at the time, but she had some neighbors that were members of the church, and they just had a good connection with her, gave her a Book of Mormon, and said, you know, we really feel like you're going to be a member of the church one day. And she just kind of brushed it off like, yeah, whatever, maybe not. So she told us she put the Book of Mormon in a drawer, like in her house, and just put it away, didn't think about it. Anyways, some time had passed, and then she found the book again and pulled it out. And so she sat down and read it in 2 months. The whole thing, cover to cover, 2 months.
Oh, my goodness.
And no missionaries, nobody was involved. She just read it. And I tell you, I've never seen a more beat up version of the Book of Mormon. She marked it. It had gone wet, so it was like huge. It was just this crazy copy of the Book of Mormon. So from then on, she started having lessons with missionaries kind of here and there. Yeah. And I don't remember exactly how she was found. I think she was a referral from her mom. I think her mom referred her probably again.
Nice. That's awesome.
For the 17th time, I'm sure. Yeah. So anyways, we started teaching her, and I remember the first lesson we taught with her, we took her to a member's house, and the member was awesome, just the perfect member for her, and they really connected, and we taught her about the plan of salvation and invited her to pray, and she was pretty reluctant, and I had to push pretty hard to get her to pray, but eventually she did, and it was short, but it was sweet and very heartfelt, and that was a big deal for her, just to have that connection with God, I think. Anyways, so we taught her on and off again, and taught her all the lessons, but she loved it, you know, she wanted to be a part of it, but there were kind of two things that were hindering her, and one was she was living with her boyfriend, and the other one was she was drinking, and she wanted to stop drinking, but had kind of created, you know, just habits, and was just, you know, this is just kind of how it is, and so as missionaries, it felt a little hopeless because you're like, you know, you are like, no, you need to get married, and people don't understand why, and it's just can create a whole set of problems, but we kept teaching her, and God, as he does, intervened, and her boyfriend actually ended up getting diagnosed with cancer, and he got treatment, and he's okay and fine, but it was really cool to see that because she just came to us one day and was like, I'm getting married. And we were like, whoa, what? And she goes, well, yeah, Billy, he got diagnosed with cancer, and I think it was just a reality check for him, and he kind of was able to see what was really important to him in his life. Anyway, so he proposed. Then, like within 2 weeks they were married. It was the bishop of our ward that actually married him, and we were able to be there and see that. Wow. Which is really special. And then, so we were like, okay, well, that problem's done. But now we still have this other thing that we were trying to face and help her with and help her overcome. And we just didn't really have an answer, you know, but it's because it was not up to us, because we were never going to change her. Right. You know, as a missionary, sometimes you get into the mode of like, okay, I'm gonna fix the problem. What can I do? But, you know, God always knows best. And so he intervened again, and the ward boundaries actually changed. And with that, she got put into the elders ward. Oh, so, is that right? Yeah, so we passed her along, and they started teaching her. And shortly after, I left the area, but they started teaching her and gave her a blessing, I think, pretty quickly on to their teaching her. And after that, she never drank again.
Really?
Yeah, she had all these habits. Like every night she had this drink, and
Oh my
she
goodness.
just like, it felt completely impossible.
Yeah.
Like, we're never going to overcome this. We were facing these two huge roadblocks, and then God just, he shows his hand, and she's able to change just like that.
Yeah.
By the power of Christ. And it was really cool to see.
Yeah.
Just when all felt hopeless, it's because we couldn't do anything about it, and God just took matters into his own hands, and because he loves Becky, and he wanted her to be happy, so he intervened.
Wow, that's so remarkable. That off camera earlier we were talking, and I was saying how it's crazy how we go on these missions. It's something that we look forward to. It's something that we reflect on so much, but we never take the time to sit down and talk to our friends and family about these actual people and these experiences that we had that play a huge role in our testimony. But everyone that I've talked to has these crazy, miraculous stories that seem that they belong in the scriptures. The idea that she just went cold turkey and stopped drinking, this habit, this addiction that she had dealt with. I mean, that's God working through the power of the priesthood, you know, and working through the means of men, us imperfect missionaries and members of the church and children of God. We are the tools that God is using to help people feel that joy.
Yeah.
I wanted really quick to talk about, because earlier you said how oftentimes you would start with the Book of Mormon when teaching those people of those strong Christian backgrounds. And then, in this lady's circumstance, it started with the Book of Mormon as well. That kind of sparked her interest and maybe sustained her, kind of motivated her to keep even thinking about joining the church and learning more.
For sure.
Chapter 5 of Preach My Gospel is money. Go check that out. It says here under the Book of Mormon is essential to personal conversion. It says an essential part of conversion is receiving a witness by the power of the Holy Ghost that the Book of Mormon is true. As you read and study it sincerely, you will feel its words enlarge your soul. Its words will enlighten your understanding of life, of God's plan, and of Jesus Christ. Pray about the book with real intent and faith in Christ. As you do, you will receive a witness through the Holy Ghost that it is the Word of God. And so I emphasize the word sincerely, because clearly if you're reading the entire Book of Mormon in 2 months, I can imagine that's pretty sincere.
Yeah.
And she was able, that the idea that the Book of Mormon is such an essential part of someone's conversion, and that kind of catapulted her into these other miraculous experiences that God gave her.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things about the Book of Mormon too, and was something that I think people were really surprised about when we would say, this is what we believe in, but we want you to take it and we want you to read it and pray about it.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, no, this is true because my bishop or my pastor said it's true. So it's true. You know what I mean? We encourage them to have their own experiences. And I think it kind of caught people off guard a little bit, but I think that's the beautiful thing about the Book of Mormon, is that when you do read it with a sincere heart and you pray about it with real intent, then you do get that answer.
Yeah.
But it kind of catches people off guard, I think.
No, it's such an open-ended, inviting approach to invite someone to do that. And I'm even noticing here, and this is kind of how Preach My Gospel is written, but it says, this is just as it's teaching us about the Book of Mormon and the power of it. It says, pray about the book with real intent and faith in Christ. And so here, the people who wrote Preach My Gospel are inviting the missionary or whoever it is reading it. So for you, when did you get that testimony of the Book of Mormon? Did that happen? A lot of people, it happens on their mission. Sometimes it's earlier in life. When did you receive that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was so impactful to me. So I remember exactly when it happened. About a year before my mission, I came to my dad and I was like, Dad, I've read the Book of Mormon. I'm reading it every day. I know it's true, but I'm just I was honest, I was just getting a little bored. I'm like, it's a little bit boring. Like, I didn't feel like I was getting a lot out of it. And I was like, I believe that it's true. I've seen other people have these miraculous experiences with it. Why am I not doing that? I have the faith, I have the desire. What am I missing? And he directed me to the Institute student manual and the Gospel Library. I don't know if you've read it or not. So it's just this tool in the Gospel Library app, and it's kind of like Come Follow Me in a way where it like kind of breaks down verse by verse, gives some context, but then it also gives quotes from prophets and apostles, and kind of talks more about the Book of Mormon in depth, and it asks you questions. So I went and I got a Book of Mormon journal, and I just inched my way through it. Like there were some days where I read a verse, because I was just going so deep. I was writing down my thoughts in all the margins, and I was highlighting everything. I was writing down quotes that I loved. And I finished that Book of Mormon right before I left on my mission. And it is the most precious book to me, the most precious version of that book, just because that's where I gained my understanding and testimony of the Book of Mormon and just the difference that it made in my life. And it was really special for me to be able to read the words of the ancient prophets next to the words of the modern day prophets and see that it's the same gospel. It's teaching the same things. And what was being taught resonated with me. But not only that, it pushed me to be better. I was more patient when I was reading my Book of Mormon. I was more kind, I'm more understanding, I'm more loving, more charitable, all these things. So just taking that time to really dive into the Book of Mormon, to slow down, to apply it to my own life, to say, okay, this verse is saying this. What does that mean for me? How can I apply that? This is a good question. How would I answer this question? How would I apply this? It just really gave me that deep, deep understanding and testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ through the Book of Mormon.
That's something that I have been struggling with actually lately, is the kind of the autopilot mode you get in when it comes to reading the Book of Mormon. We'll just talk about that. And it's good to do what you did, where you ask yourself, what is this actually doing for me? Like, am I getting anything out of this? Because often, like lately, I've just felt like I'm not really diving into it. And that practical thing that you did to really have a personal experience with the Book of Mormon, that's an invitation that Elder Bednar always gives, is to read the Book of Mormon and mark something, a common theme. Like every time it says Jesus Christ or talk about Jesus Christ, like underline that and read through the whole Book of Mormon. And I remember I recently heard him talk about how his children, because he has this huge bookshelf of copies of the Book of Mormon where he had done that, read the whole thing with, repentance or with the atonement, where he just marked it. And all of his children and posterity and family and friends, they want to see his books and read them. And he said, I will never give those books to anyone else. Like, go do that for yourself. What purpose will my personal experience with the Book of Mormon and my, notes in the margins and the quotes and the things that clicked for me in my head, what purpose will that serve you? Like, you need to go and have that, your own experience of that. And I just remember hearing that, and it opened my eyes. Like, it takes effort and time, and if we're willing to do it, God will give us that,
Yeah. And I think for sure, and for me, as I've slowed down, it's been so miraculous. I'm like, this was written for us. Like, there is no doubt in my mind, no question that it was written for us. I read something and I'm like, that just describes either my life exactly or what's going on in the world. So it is so just, I have so much love and passion about the Book of Mormon just because it is such a core part of my testimony, just because I know it was written for us. Yeah. It was absolutely written for us.
That's so awesome to hear. Tell me about, for a future sister missionary or elder, who just got their call to Knoxville, Tennessee, what is some advice or something that you wish you would have known before starting your mission there?
Like specific to Tennessee or just in general?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's about missionary work in general or the people of Tennessee, the food, it could be as spiritual or...
Well, I mean, Tennessee's the best. So if anybody gets called there, they're super lucky. And the people are amazing. And just, take the time and opportunity to sit down and listen to them because they'll tell you everything.
Yeah.
They'll tell you all about their lives and all their troubles and hard times. And I think it's important as Christians in the world that we're living in to find commonality. I was pretty quick to get combative early on in my mission because of the differences and learned really fast that doesn't get you anywhere. But as I approached it as more of a, well, thank you for being like, we don't agree, but thank you for being God-fearing and for having faith in Jesus Christ. And I genuinely mean that. Like, thank you for choosing to believe when a lot of the world is choosing not to. And that just, left us on such a better note. And we were able to share that respect for Jesus Christ and our love for him. And, we don't believe the same way, but we both believe in Jesus Christ. So I think that definitely left good feelings in both of our hearts. So that's what I would say specific to the South for sure is just, find the commonalities and build off of that. And also don't try and change people that don't want to be changed. I think a lot of times you feel like, well, no, we're right, so you have to see how we see. But the truth is if somebody's prepared, that they'll be willing to act on it. You won't have to work so hard to change their minds. They'll be ready and they'll be willing. But as far as just preparing for a mission in general, I would say, kind of back to what I said at the beginning, just have as many spiritual experiences as possible, because when you're on the mission, it's so hard and you face so many challenges, and a lot of times you feel pretty alone because you're with a companion that you hardly know. You're away from your family, your friends, the things that usually comfort you when things are hard. But in those moments, I really drew upon my past experiences with the Spirit, because that was my why. That was why I was serving a mission. So it was just the reminder that I needed to push me through those hard times, to get me through and to put my mission back into perspective. That's what I would say.
I love that. I want to ask, and whatever you're comfortable sharing, obviously, but something that you experience at some point on your mission is the weight of time. How much time you have left to spend in Tennessee with random people doing the thing. And what, you think about those times of loneliness or anxiety. What was a time where you felt, what helped you get through a moment like that? Can you, do you have an experience that could kind of illustrate when you felt that way, and what helped you get out of that and find hope for the rest of your mission? Yeah,
so I think every missionary kind of has an area that humbles them a little bit. So I was in my 4th area. I had done my training, so I did 6 weeks of Spanish. I was in a trio for 3 weeks, and then we got more missionaries sent in because it was during COVID, so we were just getting missionaries constantly. So we had kind of like a mini transfer. So I had been teaching in English for 3 weeks, had been out of my training for 3 weeks, and I got asked to go whitewash train a new missionary. And so I went to this area. It was just this teeny tiny town in Tennessee. Just like the town has one stoplight. It's so small.
Oh my goodness.
Just the sign. Anyways, it's just this small place. The people are so funny, so sweet. But I was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And this missionary just came in, was supposed to go to France, is sitting here in Tennessee with me. And I'm like, okay, I guess we'll just try and figure it out together. So I remember feeling pretty discouraged in that in that area. I had still, I think, at least a year left on my mission at that point. And I would say that's the area that humbled me. And not because my companion was hard, but because I had no idea what I was doing. There was still so many COVID restrictions. So we weren't out on the streets. We weren't knocking doors. We were spending most of our time inside on Facebook, trying to find people. And, we didn't know what we were doing. The church didn't know what they were doing. Other missionaries didn't know what they were doing. It was just so much trial and error. And so we just did what we could. We did what was best. But I just remember so distinctly feeling like there was just like this giant wall of like hardships. And I was like, I can't get around it. I can't get over it. I can't go on. I can't get through it. I was just like, I don't know what to do. I just felt like I just faced this wall day after day after day. And I would say what helped me the most was just focusing as much as I could on other people, not myself, and on Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That was the only time in my life where my personal prayers were like 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it sounds like crazy, but I was like, I just needed so much help. And I just, just wanted to do the best that I could. And it was hard and, not super fruitful, but I just knew that at the end of every day, I could lay down and feel like I had done the best that I could with the circumstances that I was in. So I think what helped me get out of that was my focus, for sure. It would have been really easy to get discouraged, and I just kept the perspective, this is what I signed up for. I'm doing this because I love Jesus Christ. And I think it's a lie or a trap to think that your mission won't be hard, or you won't feel sad, or you won't have feelings of depression or anxiety, because it's supposed to be hard. Like, that's why it's a sacrifice, is because it is hard. But that's why it's so good. Yeah. Because that area changed my life. Yeah. And it changed my relationship with Jesus Christ. So as hard as it was, and as big and as tall as that wall seemed, it completely changed the way that I think about Jesus Christ and my relationship with him and how I rely on him. I just turned to him every single day because I had to. And, nothing big, nothing huge changed. But at the end of those 6 months I was in that area, I looked back and I was like, I did that, and I did it with Jesus Christ. Like that, I could never have done it on my own, but because I had Christ with me, I was able to get through it. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. There's so many good takeaways, and I really like talking about that, because if there are kids watching this who are preparing to go on a mission or thinking about a mission, that's what they will to some degree experience, and you got to go through it. And it's a terrible but beautiful thing to go through, and I love how you credit that to how much it's blessed your life afterwards. And you'd probably even say now, you've been home from your mission for several years now, and that probably plays a huge role. What was your biggest takeaway from your mission that you see yourself doing now? Like, in what way did it bless you, your mission?
I mean, so many ways. There's so many things that I could talk about, but I think it really gave me an appreciation for the gospel. And I mean, there's so many little things that changed my life about my mission, but I just have such an appreciation for the knowledge that I have and for my Savior, Jesus Christ. I think my relationship with him is probably the biggest and most important takeaway that I have from my mission. Just the way that I was able to learn about him and the way my testimony grew in those 18 months was like unprecedented in my life. Yeah. There was nothing else I could have done that would give me those experiences that I had that formed my relationship and my testimony of Jesus Christ like it did. But it also just gave me a desire and a passion to continue to share the gospel. And I'm not perfect at it, but it's important to me to continue to, share the gospel through invitation, but also just the way that I live and the things that I choose to do and not do. Yeah. Because it is so important to me. And like I said at the beginning, I think everybody deserves to have the blessings of the gospel in their lives. Yeah. Well, that was well said. I learned a lot from you today, and it means a lot that you take the time to come and chat with me. Of course. About your mission, and hopefully those that were watching learned a thing or two. But yeah, thank you for taking the time to come chat with me. We'll have to do this again. Okay, yeah. Maybe in 5 months when a special someone gets home. Eh? Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching. This has been Lauren Bittner serving in the Knoxville, Tennessee mission, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.